Hello and welcome to Walker Tea Review. I'm Jason Walker and I'm your guide to, we were tasting fine teas. We're tasting teas that have no added flavors to them, no added ingredients to them, just pure teas that show the art of the tea makers, of the tea growers, and the ability of tea companies to select that right balance of price and good quality in those teas. Got a tea today that's a Dragon Well tea that we're going to be looking at. It's a Chinese green. So let's go ahead and jump right in. While I'm thinking about it, if you frequently come to Walker Tea Review, you may want to consider, if you haven't already, joining the newsletter. I do a monthly newsletter. Comes out just once a month. So you're not going to get a barrage. You're not going to get overwhelmed with emails. But you'll be able to find out some of the top scoring teas of the month, if that's what's important to you. Be able to just kind of hit the highlights and move on. So check that out. It's if you look up on the top, what would be your right-hand corner, so it would be up over there somewhere, and that's where it is. Sign up. We're going to go ahead and get started on this tea. We've got our tea kettle, water's boiled, ready to go. Well, it got to that early rumble of a boil, and I took it off the heat. We've got our Dragon Well, we've got our GiHuLong. This is about a 4-ounce size GiHuLong here. And we're going to take a little bit of tea. Just so to get a kind of impression, I'm going to put it just in the teaspoon here, and you can see that's was probably 3/4 of a flat pressed down teaspoon, not enough. I want to really cover the bottom of the GiHuLong so I don't see that first. If the bottom were flattened out, you would not see the bottom of it. So that, just a pinch more. So that's going to be close to maybe 1.5 heaping teaspoons there. Set that aside for just a moment. Let's get this started. Water, I'm swirling it around so it washes the leaves under the surface of the water. That lets them all soak and get evenly coated in the water. Put my lid on. I'm going to use my lid and just kind of push everything in the middle so it doesn't get trapped or pinched under the lid there. And I've got enough water that's risen above the rim there to create a seal. Also good. Carefully move that over. And now we can talk about this tea. This tea, as we said, is a Dragon Well, a Longjing. It is from GrandTea is the company. This is their XiHu, meaning West Lake, the traditional origin or traditional area of origin of Dragon Well teas. 3.5 ounces is available is currently retailing for $6.80. That's the starting price. Of course, you can get larger volumes at other prices. We have information telling us where this is from. We do not have a lot of information on harvest date or time, but traditionally, Dragon Wells are harvested in the springtime. Generally, it's believed the earlier the better. Of course, a lighter, earlier harvest, like I said, is lighter in aromas, but also can be more nuanced and have more added value in that sense. So let's take a look at this tea, talk a little bit about it, explore the dry leaf, the wet leaf, and the liquor. First off, we want to talk about the dry. I'm nearly suffocating my nose by sucking all the air out of this little bag, but in the process, some things that I'm noticing are more of a toasty type of cashew smell. My experience is some of the lighter roasted you get, and usually earlier harvests along with that. I must have gotten some of the down in my nose. But those have a lighter, more like a jasmine, fragrant rice type of aroma. This one, on the other hand, I believe because it had more of a toasting, pan firing aspect to it, it's got more of a stronger, like I said, a cashew note. And depending on the age and the firing process, I get this smell that comes off of other green teas. If I've steeped them drunk them, and I left them and I left the leaves in a pot or something overnight, and I come back and smell that. It's a little bit of that kind of oxidized, a little bit of that kind of stale type of note. There is something kind of that says that time has hit this tea a little bit. Okay, let's get out a few leaves and kind of look at them as well. Now, leaves can be, some leaves I've noticed lately have also become more downy. I mean, you've got some that actually have actually clumps of fuzz, and that can be from the process of you get a big wok, to the traditional style for pan firing or searing these teas, is to press them down with your hand on the side of the wok to get them in this flat shape. And you do have a flat shape, sometimes called a grasshopper wing type of shape. And in that process, if it's a delicate tea, some fuzz, some down off of those leaves can kind of build up and accumulate. Actually, sometimes they'll even use a little bit of tea oil from the actual tea seeds or the tea tree to kind of prevent sticking on those woks. And that oil can also kind of create a little bit of a clumpiness in that fuzz as well. This one, on the other hand, this one appears to be more mature leaves. I don't see a lot of fuzz. I see larger size leaves. For example, here's a leaf. Oh, I just broke it. But here's a leaf that is over 1.5 inches in length. Okay. Our colors, they're not a pale. This is more of a yellow green. Looks like the heat, there's been a little bit more heat application to this that has created these colors here. And you are still getting some dark green, meaning that these were probably some more mature leaves that were able to darken up and get more chlorophyll and got that darker green color. So that takes care of our dry leaf. I think we are now ready to pour, and there's a little bit of skill. It takes a little bit of practice. You want to make sure that you want to practice probably with a little bit of cool water before you start doing this with hot water, because we had water that was risen up above the seam, the rim of the lid here, and we want to kind of push that over to the side a little bit, angle that lid over. So we've got a pouring area, our water recedes back down, and our rim of our bowl here is cooler now. So we want to hold that lid in place. We want to do a nice quick pour. It's okay if we get a few leaves to slip out, but we're going to do a nice quick pour so that the water, the tea, does not spill over the sides and get close to your fingers, scalding your fingers, probably causing you to drop your gaiwan, maybe break it, probably lose all your tea as well. So don't want to do all that. Now let's go ahead and talk about this wet leaf here. Get a good sniff first. Again, toasted notes coming out. There was a little bit of, again, a toasted nut, probably more like a pine nut this time. At the same time, there's a bit of the green aspects, the vegetable type aspects coming out more so, in this sense, like a boiled lima bean. So we got lima bean, a little bit of a nutty type of note coming out of this. Now, getting our leaves and looking at our wet leaf, I did want to, yeah, here's a leaf set. Just like what you can see here, a leaf, another leaf wrapped up around a bud here. There's actually more space between. Sometimes you will get less space between the two leaves. So this leaf actually closer up, meaning that they had just, both of them had just come off of the tip there. So it kind of looks like we had a needle. The first leaf came out, it grew out a little bit, extended a little bit more, another leaf came off, and then we had the needle there. So we'll leave that there. Let me get a few of these pieces that stuck out of the way, and pull out another example here of a much larger needle. Okay, this leaf still floating around. Again, another leaf set of two leaves and a bud here. These leaves are actually larger, as I mentioned before, indicating this was probably later in the season. not the very earliest flush of the leaves. Okay, but that's pretty representative. Lots of lighter green, or yeah, lighter green in I would say more like a duller green, still more of a mature green, not a pale green like you would see from a very early, earliest harvest. Again, leaf sets with the bud there and larger size. So let's move on. Let's really hit the highlights of our wet leaf. And let's get to our liquor now. Give it a swirl here. A stewed vegetable smell coming off of that. Another thing you're going to note is with more mature leaves, if you want something with a little more heft as far as flavor or aromas, older, a slightly later harvest often becomes more richer in those aromas. Here we've got a darker color as compared to a earlier harvest, which will have a little bit of a paler color. So with color, deeper aromas or something, richer tastes or something that draw you. This may be, you may want to look out for more of the later type of harvest. And I should point out before I go much further, the difference between a earlier harvest and what I'm saying is a later harvest is usually just a matter of a few weeks. It's not like months or anything like that. So. A nutty component really hit right there as I was swirling and as I was slurping, and that slurping really allows the air to travel, the aromas, the aromatic compounds to travel up in your nose, and that's where you're detecting a lot of your flavors. This one's actually rich on those nutty kind of components. That cashew aspect is coming out again. There is a slight sweetness in there that's about mid-palate as it fell towards the back. Again, it was like it's like I had finished a bowl of fried rice. There was something in the back that was just kind of again a little bit lightly toasty kind of that fried rice element there. What else? The broth was just right to really get that sense of fried rice feel. It was a little bit of, rice can have a little bit of a starchy, sticky kind of component. So this one has a very, let's say, medium to light broth blended with that sense of texture and feel in the mouth, giving that flavor, really rounding out with the flavor. As far as astringency goes, this one's light on the astringency. I mean, we steep this pretty well. If there's any astringent that comes out at the very last in the aftertaste, and it just kind of hits on the tip of the tongue, gives us light drying sense there. As I wait a little bit more, it does kind of pass onto the sides, the insides of the cheeks here a little bit, sides of the tongue as well. But an aftertaste, I should say, aftertaste still carries a little bit of that fried rice component. It still has a little bit of that, I've just swallowed a pork fried rice kind of feel in the mouth. So, looking at this tea as a whole, I would have to give this tea although it's like I said, a slightly later harvest, compared to other later harvests, competing with other teas of its same kind, same nature, this one's performing very well. It's not stale and old tasting in the liquor. And so I have to give this tea. Probably a 90 as well. It's a good representative. It has stronger flavor and aroma profiles. It still has a little bit of that light sweetness in it. It has a smooth, consistent aftertaste. It's very low in astringency. A lot of times a later harvest, slightly later harvest like this is heavier in astringency, while this one is not. This was from good stock. And so I'm glad I hope you enjoyed this tea. I hope it's something that if you want a Dragon Well, a little bit stronger nuance, this is something to check out. And I'm glad we were able to enjoy it here together at Walker Tea Review.